American bipartisan foreign policy begins with the premise that peace between Israelis and Arabs, including Palestinian Arabs, must come through direct negotiations and not through the imposition of terms and conditions by third parties, for a reason. Direct negotiations require each side to recognize and legitimize the other. Today is the 69th anniversary of the adoption of the General Assembly in 1947 of the Partition Resolution, a partition resolution into a Jewish and an Arab state. The Jews said yes, the Arabs said no. And for 69 years, almost every Arab state and the Palestinian population have looked for every possible way to turn back the clock to November the 28th, 1947. Successive wars, years of terrorism that begins decades before 1967. And what they have so far been unable to accomplish on the battlefield, they have sought to accomplish via the political battlefield of the United Nations. One Jewish state versus 21 Arab states within 56 Islamic states, which is the largest single bloc within the 119 states of the so-called non-aligned movement. These countries, which are largely not democracies, and whose dominant spokesmen at the UN have been Iran and Cuba, constitute 2/3 of the UN. By virtue of their numbers, they wield power at the General Assembly against the one and only Jewish state. They can only be described as an international mob, incessantly attempting to accomplish through deadly politics what they have been unable to do through war. Today, at the UN, as we speak, they are holding International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. On the anniversary of the Partition Day resolution dividing the land into a Jewish and another Arab state by flying only one flag, the flag of what the General Assembly has already officially named the State of Palestine. Partition Day, and no flag of the Jewish state, the UN member state of Israel. It isn't a back room. Beside the Palestinian flag are sitting the President of the Security Council and the President of the General Assembly. This week, the General Assembly will adopt more resolutions condemning Israel, bringing this year's total to 19 against Israel and 7 critical of human rights records in all of the rest of the 192 UN states combined. To further understand the mob mentality, consider this statistic. The General Assembly hasn't held an emergency special session in 20 years on any subject but Israel. 400,000 plus dead in Syria, and a few weeks ago all the General Assembly could muster was a 3-hour informal session to talk about the possibility of eventually having an emergency session. No emergency special sessions were ever held on genocide or crimes against humanity in Rwanda or Sudan. But they have had 17 such sessions or resumed sessions on Israel alone. The UN's top women's rights body annually adopts only one resolution critical of one state for violating the rights of women anywhere in the world. That would be Israel, for allegedly violating Palestinian women's rights. Not Palestinian men, not second-class citizenship in Saudi Arabia, not stoning in Iran, just Israel. A constant drumbeat to delegitimize and destroy the one and only Jewish state. The only thing standing in the way of this mob is the veto of the United States at the UN Security Council. The veto power is not a tool which the United States uses lightly, but it exists because it is absolutely essential to protect the values of our country, our Constitution, and our firm understanding of right and wrong from an undemocratic mob. Protecting the Jewish state, Jewish self-determination, from 7 decades of rejection and discrimination and double standards and demonization is a part of our core sense of what human dignity is all about. What lies ahead in the next few weeks? A campaign that is growing daily by leaps and bounds because the Obama administration has openly and deliberately refused to dampen expectations. No one knows for sure, what form a Security Council resolution may take, if it is formally tabled at all. But here is what we do know. Number one, the Palestinian Authority is the one and only party refusing direct negotiations. Number two, the governing authority of Gaza is a terrorist organization openly committed to Israel's destruction. Number three, 70 years have passed and Palestinians still refuse to recognize the legitimacy of a Jewish state. 4. In this context, a Security Council resolution that hands Palestinians a victory pushes direct negotiations off, perhaps forever. Why negotiate when the politics of the mob succeeds? 5. A Security Council resolution would be permanent. A Russian and Chinese veto would prevent any effort to rescind it in the future by President Trump or any other president. 6. A Security Council resolution so drastically changing bipartisan American foreign policy fundamentals permanently in the waning weeks of a presidency is profoundly undemocratic. 7. Do not be fooled by attempts to cast the substance as a minor adjustment. There is a lot of speculation as to the actual substance of the potential resolution. Full UN recognition and membership of a Palestinian state, a parameters resolution setting out the overall terms and conditions of the end result of non-existent negotiations, a call for an international conference guaranteed to gang up on Israel and the United States, or what is sometimes cast as just a resolution declaring settlements to be illegal. None of the above varies from the central theme of a win for belligerence, intolerance, and sustained rejection of a Jewish state. 8. A resolution declaring settlements on Arab-claimed territory to be illegal, rather than an issue specifically set out in the Middle East roadmap as subject to negotiations, is not a minor adjustment. It will be a full-throated endorsement of BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign. Why shouldn't there be boycotts, divestments, and sanctions of an illegal enterprise? Strip away the diplomatic smoke screens, and the President of the United States is currently flirting with American endorsement of BDS. Instead of making it clear that the idea of a Security Council resolution condemning Israel in his remaining time in office is a non-starter, he is allowing the crescendo of mob rule to grow. 9. Leading that charge from within the United States as of today's New York Times op-ed is former President Jimmy Carter, champion of the libel of apartheid Israel. 1/5 of Israel's population is Arab, with more democratic rights than in any Arab state. But the rationale against Jewish settlements on disputed territory is that they might remain if the territory were ultimately to form part of a Palestinian state. And Palestine is supposed to be Judenrein, ethnically cleansed of Jews. Carter's support makes the rejectionist, intolerant agenda behind the Security Council plot more obvious than ever. 10. A resolution declaring settlements to be illegal will also be a major incentive to the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to push forward with claims already before her that Israeli leaders, starting with its Prime Minister, are guilty of war crimes for supporting settlements. The ICC prosecutor is currently under pressure from African states, claiming that the court is victimizing African countries. A Security Council resolution declaring settlements to be illegal, in light of an ICC statute purporting to make settlements war crimes, might well strike the prosecutor as a green light to promote its street creds by pouncing on Israel. In short, the President of the United States is currently flirting with American support of a go after Israel message to the ICC. 11. The UN Human Rights Council adopted a resolution in March of this year calling for the creation of a blacklist of companies supporting Israeli settlements, directly or indirectly. In other words, an attempt to isolate and strangle the economy of Israel and accomplish what war and terror alone has not. The list will be publicly released at the Council this coming March. A Security Council resolution declaring settlements to be illegal will help the Human Rights Council open the floodgates of legal and political intimidation and blackmail of American corporations. The President of the United States is currently flirting with legitimizing economic warfare against Israel and American businesses. 12. And lastly, President Obama ran for a seat on the Human Rights Council a week before the U.S. elections. He wanted and obtained a 3-year term on the council starting on January 1st, 2017, along with such UN Human Rights Authority figures as Saudi Arabia. President Bush refused to join or pay for or legitimize the council. While one of President Obama's very first foreign policy decisions was to run for membership on the council in 2009 and become one of its leading backers. At the Human Rights Council and the Security Council with the Iran deal, and now potentially the Arab-Israeli conflict, President Trump is faced with an administration that has sought to rule beyond the grave by way of the United Nations. In the case of the Human Rights Council, the response is straightforward: resign the seat effective January 21st, instead of becoming part of a mug's game and legitimizing an institution so deeply at odds with American values. But a resolution of the Security Council on Israel at this time, however it is sugar-coated or misrepresented or dressed up as pro-peace, will be no different than how John Bolton colorfully and correctly described the Human Rights Council: lipstick on a caterpillar. Americans should not be helping it fly. It is anti-democratic, anti-peace, anti-business, anti-Jewish, and an insult to the integrity of the political system of all Americans.